Uh. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to week one. We made it, folks. It's Sunday morning, and lineups are about to lock. Not the season's about to kick off. We've got a couple of games, but for most teams, are about to play their first game, and we are kicking off our Sunday morning pregame show here on Going for Two Live. Familiar faces, new faces. Of course, the ever illustrious Jamie Perog, holding it down from last year as one of the only remaining host from last season. So it's going to be a quick turnaround here. Jamie, you're going to have to teach us the ways of Sunday morning. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm just excited to get the Sunday started.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to answer questions. So feel free to share them in the chat, whether you're on the Going for Two Live YouTube, Facebook, Twitch pages. You can also DM us on Twitter or tag us in questions on Twitter. Be in the Going for Two Discord as well, which you can access for free from the Going for Two website. We have someone named Going for Two Live, our favorite friend Going for Two Live. I'm going to guess that this is Jeff, the boss, checking in. So checking in the new recruits. And speaking of new recruit, Topher Kurt joining us first time on Going for Two Live, and you're going to be a co-host with us here on Sunday morning. So Topher, welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to do this. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, super exciting. And I am Kyle Senra, so I'm going to be the guy talking a lot. So get used to it here on Sunday mornings, folks. Yes, my shirt says no kickers, repping the Going for Two brand. Mm-hmm. If you do have kicker questions, I do have kicker rankings, so I can answer them. But yes, I think we prefer to answer offensive questions, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight end. Send us your start stick questions, folks. Any other fantasy football questions you have? Oh, okay. It is Jeff Lambert. Yeah. Hi, boss. We'll do our best here. Yeah. Let us know if you have questions. Hey guys, do this. Boss us around. But yes, super thankful for Jeff for having the Going for Two Live platform, giving us the chance. I'm super grateful that Jamie was willing to let me come on Sunday mornings with him. So thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you to both of you for letting me come on. I'm green in the industry, but not to the game. So I am excited to be here.
Yeah, I love fantasy football. So yeah, like we said, there's a few different platforms. Nice to see Kyle recording a show with the lights on. I've been using this light for the last little bit, over the last year now. So we've had a year. But yeah, the lighting at my old place used to suck, and I didn't have this one. So. And the internet sucked anyway, so the visuals weren't good. Now we're good. Everything's solid. The sound's great. Actually, here I have my correct headphones plugged in, and we're gonna go with some questions. Have either of you gotten any people asking you start stick questions as we wait for the chat to kind of populate the topics?
I have. I did have a couple in a league. They were asking about. Let me pull it up real quick. One, let me look. Finding it right now. JSN or Keon Coleman was a question that I was asked this morning.
One thing that's complicated this, but I think the thing that complicates is not knowing if Lockett's going to be in or out. He's one of those guys that we're going to talk about later in terms of later game questionables that we're not going to have for sure knowing, like, is Lockett in or out, and if so it's also, we'll talk about being prepared, but with the thought that if Lockett's that questionable, he's probably not 100%. So I could see these could be the good weeks to play Jackson Smith and Jigba when Lockett's maybe dealing with this injury. So that's where I'm leaning right now. But what do you think, Jamie?
It's pretty easy for me. JSN for sure. He's going up against the nickel cornerback. What's his name? Jaquan McMillan. He was horrible.
He was also not that great.
But yeah, I see him playing the slot most of the games, so I could see tons of targets, just peppering them. I think even last year that McMillan, he let Elijah Moore get like 5-6 catches. So just imagine what JSN could do.
Yeah. I also think that JSN has proven, like, he wasn't outstanding last year, but he was also the wide receiver 3 on his team. He can be a big time playmaker. I love Keon Coleman, the prospect. I love Keon Coleman, the guy, but what's he going to do in the NFL? That's a different question. So I think if you want to go for a more risky pick, I'd go with Keon Coleman if your roster is conducive to that. But if your roster is not conducive to essentially either having like you could have 0 to 2 points from this guy, you never know. Jason gives you a higher floor.
Yeah, I think that the unknown upside of Coleman, I think that game environment is something I'd want to invest in. This Bills-Cardinals game, it's one of the highest over-unders. I believe the Bills have the second highest implied total as well. So they're heavily favored in what looks like a high-scoring matchup. It's in theory the type of game environment you'd rather invest in, whereas like Seattle's heavily favored, but the Broncos have one of the lowest implied totals this week. So their game over-under isn't the highest. It looks like a game situation where I suppose both teams could be inclined to run a lot. We've seen the Bills never do that. Well, a little bit last year, but yeah. So I think actually I'll check my rankings, but I'm pretty sure I've got Jackson Smith and Jigba ranked high. So it's if we knew Lockett was going to be out, he'd be ranked even higher for me. But yeah, I think that I would lean JSN as well. Jamie seems pretty convicted though. I think it just not sure what to trust in the rookie first game, right?
Yeah, to me, it's just it doesn't matter if Lockett's in or out. I'm still starting Jason.
All right. Okay, we got a question here in the chat. So thank you, Matthew and Christina Morris, for joining us.
Matt's a buddy of mine. Thank you, dude. Thanks for watching and giving a question.
Appreciate the support, and hopefully we can help them out if they're co-managing this team or if Matt's doing this alone. But Chuba Hubbard or Brian Robinson in full PPR? Again, go to the rankings.
That
I think I know who I have ranked higher, though.
Because I love me some Brian Robinson, but I'm pretty sure I got Hubbard a little bit higher.
I do, too. They're both top 30.
We know he's going to get the volume. Eckler, who knows what he's going to take a couple passes away from Brian Robinson. So, yeah, I'm going to go Hubbard.
Yeah, I'm going to go Hubbard, too. I'm looking at Hubbard's stats against New Orleans last year. He had, when he wasn't the starter, he had 5 for 5 receptions, 34 yards, and then 2 attempts for 16 yards. And when he was the starter in week 14, he was 23 for 87 rushing, and then 2 targets, 2 receptions, 9 yards. So he almost had 100 yards last time they played. That was at New Orleans, just like this week is. So I think that Hubbard has that starting role on lock until Brooks comes in. So I lead Hubbard because you never know what Austin Eckler's going to do. He might be completely washed. He might have, not wide running back 2 resurgence, like overall 2, but he could come back and have some nice weeks.
Yeah, across the board here, Chuba Hubbard. I think part of it is the matchup. One of you mentioned that stats against the Saints, and that was when he wasn't the starter, Topher. But to your credit, I think it's the same situation. It was him and Miles Sanders. It's just at that point, Sanders was getting more work. I think we expect the opposite, where Hubbard will see a lot more work than Sanders. Could still see Sanders maybe getting in on passing downs, but I think all the touchdown upside goes with Hubbard. Now, Washington is projected to score more points than the Panthers, but not by much. Like their implied totals, I think, for both are under 20. I should stop guessing. I know I have this written down somewhere, but it's the problem with the matchup though is Tampa Bay has always been one of the best run defenses in the league, and that's been consistent. That was pre-Tom Brady. Like when Winston was there, that was still one of the best run defenses, and they've managed to maintain that year over year. So I could see some struggles with Robinson there. So I think, we're going to, all three of us say Hubbard here and trust the Canadian kid. I love it right off the bat. But to be fair, this is the time of year you want to play Hubbard. Once Brooks gets back, that's when this becomes a lot more complicated. And then you maybe default to Robinson because he's only splitting with Austin Eckler. But as much as we think Miles Sanders isn't good, he's still on the team. And if once all three of them are in the backfield, that's where it could get really scary, and you might want to just avoid the situation entirely. But I think, while Brooks is out, I'm going to plan to start Hubbard in most of the spots I have him, because this is the time where, again, chase the volume, chase the workload. I think eventually there'll be better weeks to play Robinson. Just this is not it. So I think we're pretty easily going Chuba Hubbard there. That one.
Real quick, live breaking news: Kendrick Lamar will headline the Super Bowl halftime show this upcoming year. So that's legit.
I would say that'd make Jamie happy, because I think that's the greatest rapper of all time. But I know Jamie also disagrees with me there. And Jamie does have a question in the chat. Some Jamie Perog, who's always in the Going for Two live chats. We'll get to that in a sec. So what's Dan saying? PPR bonuses for first down, etc. Well, that'd be nice. But first down bonuses is nice. I would say though, it doesn't really matter here, because when I see first down bonuses, to me that favors running backs. Those are the guys that are getting those short yardage, easy first downs. For a lot of these receivers, you just chase who you think is going to get the most catches, because more often than not, they're going to be going for first downs. So Chris Godwin, Curtis Samuel, or Andre Yoshivas. I mean, I would say about 15 minutes, we're going to get clarity on knowing if Chase is playing.
I did see he's going to be on a snap count. So, I mean, even if he does get like 20 snaps, I can still see him getting some volume.
I mean, snap count. The snap count is 75, right? Like you hear them like, what is the exact number? Especially if Higgins is out, like it feels like they can't really. I mean, I guess it's the snap count is how much are we leading by? We're up by this much. So I guess with Chase, you hope he gets a touchdown early while he's playing, because they might just bench him in the fourth quarter if they're running through the Patriots. So I don't know. As much as it's tempting with Yoshivas, I don't know. I think we're getting too cute. If Chase was out, I could see it being a play. But I'm really just defaulting to the two guys I expect to be true volume getters for their offenses most of the year, between Godwin and Samuel. So I don't know. I'm saying no to Yoshivas. No to Yo. You guys, I guess first off, do you guys agree or disagree with that? Should we consider Yoshivas with Godwin or Samuel, or do you think exclude him from this?
I mean, there's go for it, Jamie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, he has his own role in the offense. I don't see that changing. I just see more targets with Higgins out, and if Chase is going to be on a snap count, it's going to be him or Burton, unless you believe in Gesicki. So here, I'm actually going to go Godwin and Yoshivas.
Okay, start two.
Yeah, pick two.
Yeah, pick two.
Oh, you did say pick two.
We're at Panera. You pick
yes,
two.
I saw it. Yeah, right there next to the name. I was so focused on the names. Thanks, guys. Okay, so you said Yoshivas Godwin, Jamie.
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna head. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm definitely going Godwin. I think Curtis Samuel is such a boomer bust player. We don't know about Yoshivas. So Curtis Samuel could end up being great. I'm as a perennial Josh Allen owner in multiple dynasty leagues, I am worried about the wide receiver core. Who's going to break out? Who's going to lead? They're kind of like a Packers, but in a different sense of who's breaking out, who's leading this team. I think Yoshivas will get the opportunities. I also think that the Bills facing the Cardinals defense could do a lot of damage. I'm kind of up in the air. I'm gonna lead Samuel on this. I'm gonna lean him because he's a gadget player. He could get a wraparound run and run it in for 30 yards and get you that touchdown that comes out of the blue. So I'm going upside with Samuel.
Yeah, I'm leaning Godwin, Samuel as well. I think for sure Godwin. The Commanders' defense, especially once they traded away their pass rushers last year, got really bad. So I could see Godwin getting a ton of volume, being incredibly effective. See, I kind of expect Samuel, or I did say Godwin, right? Yeah, I expect Samuel to get decent enough volume. Like I'm someone who's kind of bet against Khalil Shakir. His target share through 2 years is so low. And if we go with the principle that targets are earned, he really hasn't earned targets. And then I know people say, oh, well, Diggs and Gabe Davis were there. Well, Curtis Samuel is a better target earner than Gabe Davis. And as a second rounder, Coleman, we expect him to earn a certain number of targets. I expect also a step up from Dalton Kincaid in terms of being a target alpha, which that wasn't there last year. So I think Shakir will get more. Like I think last year's target share was like 8%. I think he's to me, there's no way he won't be in double digits just because of the amount of time he plays. But it's also, I don't think it's getting to like the 20%. Like you have to make such a big leap. Like to me, I still see Curtis Samuel as the number one receiver because he's shown through his career that he will earn targets. So I'm in again with the team with the second highest implied total with the Bills. Now the Bengals are tied for sixth, so it's up there. But I also feel like that over under is a lot lower because the Patriots have the lowest implied total this week. It could be that they're not needing to rely on Yoshivas. Like again, it's with Chase and Yoshivas. You almost hope they get a touchdown in the first quarter because if not, it might just be run heavy the rest of the game. So I see that game environment, Bills Cardinals, something I'd rather invest in. So I'm going to go Godwin Samuel. So sorry, Dan, we didn't give full clarity. All three of us said Godwin though, so I think he's the locked in play. And then between Samuel and Yoshivas, I know differing opinions. And Jamie made some good points. I was too quick to dismiss Yoshivas right away. All right, the boss, Jeff Lambert. Oh yes, Scott Fishbowl team without T. Higgins with his super Bengal stack. Like, I also want some clarity, Jeff. Did you actually take T. Higgins in the third? Because that's wild. Because I got him in the 9th round to Scott Fishbowl. Because he mentioned his third rounders out, but he didn't say who it was. So I'm like, is Higgins out and someone else out, or did you actually take Higgins in the third? That's wild. Not to roast the boss, man, but I mean that's probably more of a reach than Evan McPherson, to be honest. Because he's at least receivers with return yardage and kickers get good points, but a receiver who doesn't return, no, that's all. So yeah, so who do we take to replace T. Higgins? Michael Wilson, Ray McLeod, Mike Gesicki because it's tight end premium. Ray McLeod because there's big return yardage here, right? Like it's like you see the name and I almost laughed at first, but it's Scott Fishbowl, so 0.2 points for return yards.
Genuinely where I'm leaning because not only is he returning, he's also starting to carve out a spot in that like starting 3 wide receivers. So I think he has some ability to capitalize not just on return yardage, but to get you some catches and some plays. Michael Wilson facing a brand new Bills secondary. We used to be a shutdown place, and it's all new. We don't know what's happening there, so that could pose for breakouts. Mike Gesicki, obviously tight end premium, but we haven't seen him do a whole lot. Like he's had some weeks in his career, but he's had more of a name than actual output in my opinion. Yes, Higgins is out, could open things up, but I think your safest bet is probably Ray McLeod.
So in Scott Fishbowl, it's a fun league. Don't play it safe. Go for the upside with the tight end premium. I'm actually going to say start Mike Gesicki. They don't have a true slot receiver besides Charlie Jones, really, and I can see.
To be fair, it's probably Chase, right? Like like Yoshivas and Burton. If the whole point is to have these perimeter receivers, and that's who you're replacing Higgins,
but if
just play Chase in the slot.
Yeah, Chase is also going to be on the snap count. Who knows how much he's going to play?
You're right.
So yeah, I mean,
he plays more in a closer game, but if it is a blowout, then yeah, Gesicki's probably going to be on the field more than Chase, and that's that middle easy target. I think I lean Gesicki as well.
So
I lean Gesicki because Higgins is out. That's the whole kind of point of like why this is even a decision, right? If Higgins was there, you just play him. But because Higgins is out, that absence, where are these targets going to go? I don't know. I'm going to check my target share projection. Like, who did I project more between Gesicki and Yoshivas over a full season? I don't think it was very high for either. I'm going to lie, but let me see. So I got Gesicki at 12.2%, and Yoshivas last year only earned a 4.5% target share. So, like, is he actually ahead of Trenton Irwin? I guess that's the other question. So no, I'm more confident to play Gesicki, I think, than I was Yoshivas. The hesitation. So yeah, I'm with you, Jamie. No Michael Wilson though. I mean, as much as there's hype around him, it's leaning to the format, right? Like and like you were saying, Topher, lean into the return yards aspect of the format.
Yeah, after hearing that, I'm going to lean Mike Gesicki. Ray McLeod is your safe option. It's Scott Fishbowl. Playing it safe isn't going to get you into the playoffs, isn't going to help you win that title or that 1 out of 12 million people will get. So I'm going Gesicki. Thanks for changing my mind, guys.
All right, no problem. All right, so Mike Jasicki there, Jeff. Good luck. All right, so Jamie's asking.
Actually, let's skip this bums question. I see
Okay,
another
fair
one
enough.
right
Yeah.
there.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
Gino, Baker, or Knicks. This one is pretty easy for me. So with the news of Fields starting, I actually replaced Fields in my Superflex over Knicks. But I have another league. I have Fields, but Baker's in my Superflex, and I am not sitting Baker this week. I think he's going to have a huge game against that Washington secondary. They're actually pretty bad on the road. Last year, I believe they gave up over 20 points to quarterbacks on the road. So I'm gonna say Baker.
Oh, I'm with you. Also, Baker was a top 10 quarterback last year.
Yeah.
And he's not being treated like that. And they have his same core. Plus, they drafted Jalen. Why can't I think of his last name? McMillan. Yeah. So they drafted a rookie wide receiver in the top half of the draft as well. Like they just added to what he already has. This is no brainer for me, Baker.
Yeah, I saw on the cheat sheet that I think Baker could be a low end QB1, somewhere in that like 10 to 12 range this week.
Yeah, so you see, I'm a little lower. I've actually got Baker just one spot ahead of Gino. So I get the question. Like to me, they're close, but as I said, Baker's one spot ahead. So yeah, I'm leaning Baker. Both teams had implied totals of 23.5 when I last checked. So both teams are expected to score points. Now, how do they score points? Is one more inclined to do it on the road than the other, or on the ground? Sorry, than the other. I mean, you'd argue maybe it's Seattle because Denver's run defense is so bad last year. I mean, I don't know that Washington's defense is that great, but because they were just atrocious in terms of run game, Seattle might be the team that relies on their ground game more than the Bucks. Whereas, like, I have enough faith in Jaden Daniels that he might keep this interesting and force the Bucks to pass more. So yeah, I think all three of us are going with Baker. So
there you go.
All right.
Sorry that Roshan is out, Jamie.
Oh man.
But yeah, so this is from Ali Garbage.
Oh, Allie, that's my one of my friends.
Not a garbage dude. Ali's great. Now, and definitely no garbage options here. I guess this is three pretty good players in half PPR. Do you go Tank Dell, George Pickens, or Jerome Ford? My first thought is lean into the format, just play the running back in half PPR.
But it is against Dallas. Ford isn't that great of a rusher. He gets most of his points in the passing game. Who knows how Watson's going to target the running back? That makes me nervous, especially with the low score. So here it's between Dell and Pickens.
Those teams are expected to score more points too. Browns are at 22.5. Actually, no, the Steelers aren't. Do you think having Fields in, does that help or hurt Pickens, or does it matter?
I think Fields likes to zone in on one guy. Like we saw him give DJ Moore a top 6 receiver season last year and then losing his starting job. I think, you look at what the Bears had last year. It was DJ Moore and then a tight end that recently got an extension, but wasn't everything that he was thought to be. Look at where he is now. Has a wide receiver that's out in front of everything, no competition. And Muth just got an extension and isn't everything that he's hyped up to be. So I'm going Pickens here. Pickens is the number one option. You don't know what's going to happen with Dell, with Collins, and with Diggs there. I love Tank Dell. Tank Dell's super talented. But with 3 receiving options like that, you're not going to I don't think we're going to see a Peyton Manning throwing for 1,000 yards to 3 wide receivers this year. So also I have dogs and 2 of them are corgis. So they bark a lot. So if you hear
we're also
dogs
talking about a Browns player too, right? So the dog pound is coming strong. We talked about Jerome Ford. Do they want Jerome Ford? Is that why they're barking?
They might. That might be the case. Actually, their dad is coming home.
I will say Jamie is correct about Ford's lack of running efficiency, but one thing that happened, I think we're being too harshly critical of him. He had a high ankle sprain and he didn't miss time, which is insane. I remember like the conversations with Doc I was having last year. Like, is it really a high ankle sprain? Like, we had no idea because you'd expect to miss a month, not miss 0 games. He was much less efficient after that injury, though. So he looked good. I think the real Jerome Ford would be the first half of the season or before that high ankle sprain. He wasn't awful. Now, it was buoyed by volume. With no Nick Chubb, I expect him to get a ton of volume. Like, what do you think, Jamie, being the Browns fan? Like, do you think Foreman and Pierre Strong eat into it where it's like a true committee, or is this?
No, I see like maybe a 55, maybe 60 for Ford. He's going to get the majority, and then Foreman will probably get the short yard, goal line work.
True. That was something Ford didn't have much touchdown upside, but that was because Kareem Hunt was there. But I guess you're thinking Foreman. We've seen him do
Foreman
that.
will probably take that away. Okay. And then Pierre Strong, he's just electric. He'll probably only get like 4 or 5 snaps, but he definitely put some points up with those snaps.
All right. So you know what? Yeah, I think I'm maybe. You've kind of convinced me to lean away from Ford, Jamie. Mm-hmm. And then to Topher's credit, I have Pickens ranked higher among wide receivers.
Now the question though is AJ Terrell going to be shadowing Pickens?
I think he will.
Yeah, probably. Who else would he cover?
Yeah,
I think it's the point, right? Like, who else is Fields going to pass to there? But
exactly, because usually he's like a 50% shadow guy. But with Pickens being the only option, I can see him doing that more, and that makes me nervous because he only allows like 2 or 3 receptions per game, but Pickens can have like 40, 50 yards on 1 reception.
So they are ranked close to me. Like, I've got Pickens at wide receiver 27, Tank Dell's at 35. So it's not super far off. And the fact that Ali says he's leaning towards Dell, I think the pro Dell argument is just that game. The Texans have the 4th highest implied totals. Whereas, with Jerome Ford, if you expect points, Cleveland's 17th and Pittsburgh is 29th. Now, that was set before we learned it was Fields. So I don't know if that line would go up because right now, like when I had their implied total, it was 18.75. Does it get closer to 20 with Fields, or does it actually go lower than that? So I think, Ali, if you're leaning Dell, I don't know that I can think of a good enough reason to pick other than I've got Pickens ranked higher. But clearly, in Ali's mind, if he were to rank things, he's probably ranking Dell higher. So I don't know if I can give a small enough argument to go against that because of, especially like in half PPR, you're kind of hoping for the touchdown. Probably likelier to come from Tank Dell just because of how many points the Texans are expected to score.
And I know she is a huge Dell fan. Great matchup. I could see him maybe getting even the most targets.
I mean, you see, I think I've got him projected target share wise to be less, but that's, of course, over a full season. On any given game, anyone can be the top target guy. I see Dell's upside, though, being the touchdowns. Like, that's where he was like incredibly efficient at scoring touchdowns last year. So I expect Diggs and Collins to get more targets over the course of the season. But my full season touchdown projection, Dell is actually the highest. So I think Dell is going to be super boom bust. Like, he's not going to be consistent at all. It seems like he's going to be playing the least of the 3. That when they go to 2 wide receiver sets, he's not going to be on the field. Now, how often do they go away from the 11 personnel? That's the other question. I mean, he could be out there almost as much as the other guys because they mostly just run from that formation. But I think with Dell, you really got to pick what are the weeks that you think he's going to spike. In theory, this might be one of them. As Stroud's getting comfortable with Diggs, it's almost one of those, like, Dell's coming off the injury, but the injury, like, it was a broken leg and it happened so long ago. I haven't heard anything that has affected him at all. As far as I'm concerned, Dell's back to 100% healthy. So in theory, you might want to start the season off playing Dell. And then as Diggs gets more involved in the offense, maybe Dell lessens his role. That's when you want to stay away from him. So I think maybe if Ali is leaning Dell, maybe this is the week to just do it because how many points the Colts they're expected to score against the Colts.
Yeah, Ali, at the end of the day, this is an enviable situation for you to be considering those 3 in your flex. Like, to have those 3 as your choices and you have to sit 2 of them, like, that's a very good place to be. So props to you. Proud of you.
Yeah, great drafting.
Yeah.
Hey, she learned from the best.
Oh, from Jeff watching Going for Two Live. Oh, because Jeff actually took Higgins in the fourth, not his thirds.
Oh, okay. So then he has his third
But
and his fourth.
He was on the
rounder out.
turn, so it was like really a late third.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know who his third was. I know he went McPherson, Burrow to start, and then
he started with McPherson.
So Jeff's super great because he auctioned his pick off the charity. So one of his league mates paid like I think it was well over $200 to have the right to force him to take a kicker to start.
That's okay. That's beautiful. Props to that guy.
No, Jeff's amazing. Jeff's the best.
Yeah.
So it's part of the charity. But now when your first rounder is a kicker and your fourth rounder is out, good luck, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got another question here from Zach. Thanks for the couple questions, Zach. Appreciate you joining in. PPR, trust Chase or pivot to Pickens? So right on this George Pickens talk. And again, would this answer be different if it was Wilson versus Fields?
I think that even on a snap count, Jamar Chase is just too good to bench him right now, especially with T. Higgins out. They say snap count, but then T. Higgins is also out. And if there's something, the game's kind of close. I think that they forego that snap count. They put him in to ensure the win. Whether that's the first half or the second half, they'll probably forgo the snap count at some point and put him in at least on the big plays, that the places that they need him to be Jamar Chase in. So I think either is a solid choice, but I'm still trusting Chase.
Yeah, I mean, if they put him in, they're going to use him during those snaps. So I would definitely go Chase. We just talked about Pickens possibly facing A.J. Terrell, tough matchup. So I'd rather have Jamar Chase's 3 catches than Pickens' 3 catches.
Sure, right. Like the efficiency. The Patriots do have Christian Gonzalez, right? It's not like they don't have a good corner that they could shadow Chase too. But Gonzalez is younger. He had a great rookie season, but then got hurt. So he still hasn't played a full rookie season's worth of games yet. Whereas Terrell, he's a veteran. We've known for years to be a good corner. So it's in terms of a corner matchup, I think you would rather Chase playing against Gonzalez will be more efficient. It depends on what you think of Zach Taylor. Is he really stupid to where, we're backed up on our own 3-yard line? These are the plays we're going to play Chase, not, we're inside the goal line and, a quick touchdown from Chase. It feels like if they are going to play him, they're going to play him in the high leverage spots, red zone opportunities where you can get touchdowns. So,
absolutely.
If Chase is in, I have a hard time benching him. Just me personally. I've only got him in one league. He's definitely in the lineup. There's no... I'm looking at Michael Wilson, right? I don't have the benefit of being the next guy. That team, I maybe didn't draft enough depth. We're ripping on Michael Wilson. Poor kid. Looks like he'll be the third target, but yeah, I'm sticking with Chase over.
Again, I'm gonna say this, Zach. If this is a decision you have to make for your starting lineup, good job. Being able to choose between Chase and Pickens, that's not what most people are picking between. So. Again, we're having some people that have some solid teams, some good drafts going on right here. So keep up the good work, y'all. Seriously.
Yeah, great drafting. I hope it's because people follow along all year to the Going for Two Live channel. And, we do Sunday morning streams here, but there will be lots of content all through the week on Going for Two Live. So be sure to subscribe, like the videos, comment as well. Helps us out, get more exposure. But yeah, be sure to subscribe and get notifications because I'll be co-hosting the Monday pregame show as well tomorrow night. Got a couple of good shows on Tuesday. Speak on it. Jamie co-hosts the Fantasy Cheat Sheet, so that's fantastic. And of course, the big boss Jeff and the flagship Armchair Show on Wednesday nights, and some other things throughout the weekend. We're going to get Thursday pregame shows. There's the Friday DFS. There's no Saturday Night 5 this week, but expect Brian and Josh to return for Dynasty Saturday Night 5 Saturday nights.
And also I write weekly articles. I definitely had a week this week where I didn't write week 1. So that's a really good start to my year. But I will be getting back into week 2. And if you've seen any of my other articles on the preseason, it's It's comparing and contrasting how 10 major sources of fantasy football rankings compare against each other, contrast against each other. Like, who are, do 5 sources have Pickens as a top 24 wide receiver and 3 sources have them outside the top 36? That's not every week, every player, but I go through and I create tiers, tiers of 12 players based off of the consensus rankings and look into some pretty big gaps in between players. So then that, okay, I might be relying on Matthew Berry because I love Matthew Berry, but Matthew Berry has this guy ranked 5 spots higher than anybody else. He's actually ranked 10 spots higher per the average. So is Matthew Berry rightly high on that guy and everybody else is rightly low? So I dive into those things.
So can we go back up to this question here? This dude wants to know Brian Thomas or Sutton. I don't know what to think about.
Well, of course you don't. That's why you asked. Is it full or half?
It's full PPR, always full PPR. The thing that worries about me, like, who is Jalen Ramsey going to cover? Is it going to be Gabe Davis? Is it going to be Brian Thomas? Could he move over?
He might start Gabe Davis, and then if Brian Thomas breaks off a big one, he'll start to go on him, right? So
that's the issue. First half, I mean, Thomas can go off, and then they can readjust. But Sutton, I mean, he's going to be the main target in that offense, but he has a rookie quarterback starting.
It's funny because I do have Gabe Davis ranked higher than Brian Thomas. I think it's, to me, a little bit of earlier what you were talking about, Jamie, of like hesitant on Keon Coleman. Just, if you don't have to with these rookies, you'd rather wait and see for a week. But I mean, and the same thing with Keon Coleman. This game environment is so great, though. It's one of the higher over-unders. I believe it actually is the highest combined over-under. The Dolphins are up there. The Jags are 11th. So, I don't know. I've got Sutton ranked higher. I think just knowing he's the number 1 target, there's certain safety in the volume. Their implied total is pretty low. It's 18, I believe, right down there with the Panthers. Not Patriots level bad, but pretty close. Yeah. But it's also, I mean, they're underdogs a lot of this year, so they'll be inclined to maybe have to throw more to catch up. I mean, the Jags are underdogs too, though, against the Dolphins. So I suppose that argument's pretty point. Like I said, I've got Sutton ranked higher, but the matchup is pretty enticing for Thomas to get exposure to that Jags-Titans or Jags. Not Jags-Titans enough. Jags-Dolphins game.
Yeah. I am. What was I gonna say? I am one of your people that is higher on Brian Thomas than most people. I really, really like Brian Thomas. I think that he's somebody that makes an imprint right away. I think he outscores Christian Kirk. I think he becomes the number 1 receiver on that team. I think he takes away a good number of targets from Evan Ingram. I think Brian Thomas is that dude. However, it is week 1.
Yeah.
And we don't know, Also, Cortland Sutton is another guy that I feel is carried by name more than by production. Yes, he is the wide receiver 1, but he doesn't do a whole lot with being the wide receiver 1 on that team. He's had one season where you're like, wow, Cortland Sutton, and we're really hanging on to that. And I don't think that's going to be super helpful. I think if you want a solid, safe floor, Sutton. If you want your more boom or bust, like we've talked about with your Tank Dell or your Keon Coleman or your guys that have more risk, go for Brian Thomas. I'm a Brian Thomas believer.
Okay.
So that didn't help you at all, Jamie. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. So since it is your team, like your opinion does matter the most. What were you leading? What were you thinking?
I was leaning more Sutton just because I know he's going to get more targets. I don't know the split between the 3 and Jacksonville plus Jalen Ramsey is a huge factor. I don't know.
I think Jalen Ramsey being a huge factor is very, very relevant. That's the only reason I really would go towards Sutton is just because Jalen Ramsey is on that field and he's beyond dominant.
And if the Dolphins agree with you, Topher, and they think Thomas is the bigger threat, they may just right away, okay, let's give the rookie a real welcome to the NFL and not give him any momentum, because they might think, okay, if we let him get a couple catches, then move Ramsey to him, he might have confidence to continue to do good. Whereas if
I'm
we can just
actually
shut him
consultant
down,
for the Miami Dolphins defense. So I'm actually directing them away from doing that so that my fantasy prophecies are coming true. So
all right, so if the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins is listening, because I'm sure, the game's only in 50 minutes. I'm sure he's got tons of time to kill right now, not game planning, working with his players. He's listening to
he's
us.
on the sideline with an AirPod in his ears.
Appreciate. Remember that. Like, subscribe, retweet and stuff. So sorry, Jamie.
That's right.
You're on your own.
I'm actually looking at the team now, and I have Brian Thomas in. I think just for that upside.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of my dynasty teams. I got Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, JSN, Terry McLaurin. So, I mean, pretty safe options there, in my opinion.
Do you feel comfortable trusting two rookies right away?
I was also going to say you're Ohio State Central right there.
Oh, yeah. No, I tried to trade for Olave in this league, too. But he wouldn't give one to me.
Okay.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I think the fact that you're already starting a rookie, like, I want to maybe mitigate
But
some risk and not
the
start
rookie,
two.
though.
What?
Like, Marvin Harrison is the rookie, the start. So
exactly. Exactly. So start him. I don't know. I feel like you're almost forcing a little too much going with Thomas week 1. So again, I'd trust my rankings with Sutton. I know Topher's gonna trust what he uses the upside and go with Thomas. So
I also
again,
think
sorry.
it's
Hopefully
okay.
we can help the actual listeners.
I also think week 1, you have to determine: do you want to go in guns blazing? Do you want to try and win the most points? Obviously, you want to win, but do you want to take your highest risk reward week 1, or do you want to play it safe to hopefully ensure a win? So if you want to try and ensure a win and make sure that you do get some points from that position, go Sutton. If you want to Blair for it, if you want to, take a big jump, I would go Thomas. It depends on how you want to come into your week 1 rearing and ready to go.
And also, I guess, projections, like, are you expected to win? But I also, if neither of you have played any players yet, I also don't view those projections as that equal. Like, have either you or your opponent have players who played Thursday or Friday?
So I'm actually looking. I do have one more option. Roma Dunze. I was just
another rookie.
Yeah, another rookie. But I was just looking, and DJ Moore is going to be seeing a lot of Snead, and Snead only allows 3 passes or 3 receptions, 30 yards.
I think if Keenan Allen was out, I'd maybe consider a Dunze. But I go back. Okay, so we have so little data. I guess the data would say the Bears are projected to score more points than the Jaguars. So actually, maybe Odunze is the smart.
I still think that Brian Thomas has a chance to. There's no DJ Moore on his team, so I think Roma Dunze, no matter the talent, I think they're going to warm him up. I think they have 2 very strong wide receivers in front of him. Rely on those guys. Get a Dunze really warmed up to the NFL, prime him up. Brian Thomas doesn't have that luxury. I don't think Christian Kirk or Gabe Davis are better than him.
And would it help to say that I do have Trevor Lawrence in my super flex?
Oh, yeah, then Thomas. Easy.
The stack does make that appealing. And again, back to what data do we have? One of the few data we have is these Vegas projections, these Vegas over-under and implied total lines. They're usually pretty smart. They've usually got really good projection models, some of the best in the business. So, what are they saying? And I mean, they expect the Jags to score more points than the Broncos. So just on that is who is the better chance to score the touchdown on the upside? It probably is Thomas. Sorry, folks, for spending so much time on Jamie's question, but it's the whole process. This is a really difficult one. Zach's got one.
Yeah, real quick to update something we talked about earlier. We talked about JSN at the top, depending on if Tyler Lockett would play or not. The fantasy footballers just sent an email out as of 10:40 a.m. CST. Tyler Lockett is expected to play. So Tyler Lockett is expected to play, which can influence what you're going to do with these noon games.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you throw in JSN over a guy? Yeah, that's definitely true. How about this one for Zach?
Throw in if this is tight end premium or not.
Well, the fact that he just said PPR, he's given us a scoring setting, so I'm going to guess it's not.
Not
It's
okay.
just straight PPR across the board. But yeah, do let us know if I'm wrong there, Zach, if there is any tight end premium scoring. But yeah, Jake Ferguson, Wan'Dale Robinson, or Jamison Williams.
Well, I'm taking Wan'Dale out. So between Ferguson, Jamison Williams.
Funny, I was going to take Jamison Williams out, but I'm the Jamison Williams hater.
Why-
So
So why are you taking Wan'Dale out? I do want to know that.
Because I just think Neighbors is going to be the main target. They got Jalen Hyatt also, and they also have Slayton, I believe. I just don't see that team being good enough to support 2 receivers, and I'm not counting Neighbors out.
I will say if they do sport with 2 receivers, to me it is Wan'Dale. I think he's ahead of Slayton, and he's much ahead of Hyatt. Like through 2 years, Wan'Dale's had close to 20% target share. Hyatt he was Khalil Shakir last year at 8%. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're the reasons to hold them back. Daniel Jones is the reason to maybe hold back Wan'Dale. But I think he's pretty clearly number 2 target on that team, and I think
So
they're not good enough that they'll have to pass the ball at some point. I feel like Wan'Dale's going to get targets, so I have him ranked ahead of Jamison.
yeah, I have. I'm looking at ourlads.com because they always have the best depth charts and stuff, and it has Wan'Dale as a starting slot receiver, and that team is, especially last year and going into this year, rife with slot receivers. Like they're
They drafted
essentially
Neighbors
it's everybody is the slot receiver mostly.
except Slayton, and that's why he's still on the team because he's the only outside receiver they've had. They've had no choice but to pay him.
Exactly, but Slayton isn't even starting. He's behind Jalen Hyatt on this. So they've got Neighbors, left wide receiver, Hyatt, right wide receiver, and Wan'Dale in the slot, according to our lads. I think that Wan'Dale winning that slot role says a lot. Jamison Williams, I think he's had his chances. I think that he is becoming a Rashad Bateman. In my eyes, he will have 2 big weeks a season, make you remember why he was a first-round draft pick, and then go back to living hermit status. I don't think Ferguson is good enough to put him in as a flex player. I think Wan'Dale's my option.
So as a Browns fan, how do you beat the Browns? Their defense is pretty stellar, right? Can't really run on them. Can't really pass on them for the receivers. So every game that I noticed, tight end always goes off. So if they were going to score, I think Ferguson has the best chance to get that touchdown. I could see maybe 4 or 5 catches from him, 40 yards. So
I'm also curious who Zach's other tight end is. If Ferguson is the flex option, not the tight end option.
I'm guessing it's going to be one of the top 6.
Well, that's what I would think. But if it's not, I want to know who that other player is because I might want to bench them over Wan'Dale. I think looking at the data, the implied totals, the Giants and Cowboys are both projected at 20 points. So if you're trying in between the two, which one has more touchdown upside? Doesn't look like there's much from either. And to be fair, that does go with Jamison, right? Like he's probably the most likely to score a touchdown. But he's also the least likely to do anything except score the touchdown. Like that's it. Like you get 7 points with him. Is it true ceiling or big PPR game from either of these guys?
Jamison Williams is also the
point total. So
I think Jamison Williams is the 5th option on the team behind Amon-Ra, besides Laporta, and behind both running backs. I think Wan'Dale can truly be the number 2 option. I think Ferguson can be the true number 3 option on that team. He
could even be the number 2, but I think he's the safest of. I mean, I guess Wan'Dale's pretty safe too. Like I said, I don't see anyone. Jalen Hyatt didn't do enough as a rookie to make me think that even though he's a starter alongside Robinson, that he's going to earn any targets next year.
So, and I think your argument about how people score against the Browns is very valid. I haven't looked into that, so I appreciate you bringing that information to the table. That makes me question what to do there. I think
that did make me lean towards Ferguson slightly.
Yeah,
that's
married
Kyle
to
Pitts.
Pitts.
So yeah, Pitts is active. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I know he was questionable, I think, at one point, but yeah, he
That's
is active. So
Zach, that's a really disappointing marriage. I'm sorry to hear that.
oh,
I love it.
he's still young. He's still young in the marriage. So yeah, I think honestly, playing 2 tight ends, even if it's no tight end premium, this might be you might have the 2 tight ends to make it work with that. I'm myself questioning Ferguson as my between Ferguson and Fant just on the Browns thing. And what you've done, Jamie, is you've kind of given me confidence that even though Seahawks are expected to score more points than Ferguson or than the Cowboys, maybe that's still he's more integral. Ferguson's more integral to the matchup for the Cowboys beating the Seahawks than Fant would be, especially if Lockett ends up playing as expected. Luckily, I don't have to make that decision till later. I will never bench Pitts. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: if you make the investment like where you drafted him, you probably just have to start him every week and hope for the upside and hope that now that he's got probably a significant quarterback upgrade, that's what lets him take the lead, which isn't an unrealistic expectation. So yeah, I'm starting to lean towards playing both tight ends.
I think you go with your gut at the end of the day on this one. If your gut says Jameson, it's wrong. But
well, I was going to say none of us said like all. I think so. I think like if we're helping you narrow it down, Zach, I think the decision is between Ferguson and Wandale, the guys, especially in full PPR, that we expect to get volume as either the number 2 or number 3 targets on their teams.
Well, thank you, Courtney. I appreciate you guys are awesome. Compliment.
Love Courtney and love
Courtney's
Tractor
awesome.
3. Yeah, she's great.
Okay, so I do have a question for my half PPR team for my wide receiver position. I have Josh Palmer against Vegas. I have Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel against Arizona. And then I have Wandale against Minnesota. Who do I start right there?
Well, we haven't talked about Josh Palmer yet, so I feel like we got to mention it. Shout out to the Canadian kid who, like, I'm still like, if I had to guess, I would say he's going to be the Chargers' number 1 target this year.
Yeah,
it could be Ladd. I guess it's probably not going to be DJ Chark now that he's hurt, but it could have been DJ Chark. It could be Quentin in theory, but I just think Palmer's earned it. 17% target share each of the last 2 years. I feel like that's his like baseline now because Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are gone. Like, but McConkey can't replace both. He can maybe replace one, but I feel like Palmer's pretty safe and locked in. But I also think Curtis Samuel's locked in for targets. So I actually have Samuel ranked the highest.
Okay.
Part of that is the matchup. I think Bill's offense expected to score the second most points this week according to the Vegas projections. 27. Where is the Chargers? 23. So 4-point difference. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, if Jameson pops off, I'm the Jameson hater, so I'll take all the hate on the one catch he does, the 1 week where he does score a touchdown, and then the other weeks where he gets 0 catches.
So think about Jameson Williams as Sammy Watkins from now on. If he breaks out in week 1, that's all he's going to do the rest of the year until the playoffs.
That is a very. So do you then play him week 1? Right? Like, is this the week to play him?
Well, he hasn't broken out in week 1 yet, so this is the time for him to do that.
He's never played week 1.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly. Year 3, not starting.
We learned something because the one argument for him is the Lions have the highest implied total this week.
Yeah,
they are expected to score the most points. They're playing in a dome. Home dome golf. How the appeal is, but does it even matter? Because if it all goes to Laporte and Amon-Ra, it might not matter. In fact, Jameson tends to score on like rush attempts or in like non-traditional ways. So it's not the good wide receiver matchups that end up helping him. So he's super tough to predict. Well, no, I'm not concerned about Ayuk today at all because he's not playing today. But yeah, I'm actually more concerned with the fact that it is Monday and you'll have less options. Because you're having to decide today. I see what you're saying. Do you play Deontay today or go with Ayuk tomorrow? I know, Jamie, you said you had Ayuk outside your top 36. Is Deontay ranked higher?
Yeah, I got Deontay in my top 20. I actually have a league where I put Deontay over Brandon Ayuk in my wide receiver 3. So that's the easy one for me.
Maybe I'm just too high on Ayuk because I've got him at wide receiver 22. So I'm still ranking him higher.
I don't know. I mean, Sauce Gardner. Come on.
and to be fair, he probably would be the one to get Sauce. Like,
so
it's tough to have Gardner shadow Debo the way they move him around so much. So they might just.
I did the math on it. Gardner allows about 3.5 targets. So let's say he gets four targets, right? He allows a 58% catch rate. So he's going to catch half of them. So I don't want Ayuk getting 2 receptions, 24 yards. I'm good on those 4 points. Like, give me Deontay. He's going to get like 7, 8 catches. I can see like 12 targets. Who else are going to throw the ball to?
So
Adam Thielen. Early season Adam Thielen.
I'm looking at Adam Thielen last year. At week 1, he only had 2 targets, but then from week 2 until week 11 with their bye in it, he had 9, 14, 8, 13, 13, 11, 6, 10, 11 targets
He was probably a
per game.
top 6 receiver at that point too.
Yeah, and he ended up at 33 years old, coming off the season with 1,000 yards. He also did not score a touchdown after their week 7 bye, which is crazy. But I think if Adam Thielen can do that, I think that Deontay Johnson has a solid chance. Because they drafted, the year before they drafted Jonathan Mingo in the 2nd round. He's depth player now. Xavier Legette drafted him at the end of the 1st, but he only had 1 breakout year, and he's in college. And he also has had some injury questions over the preseason. So I don't think 34-year-old Adam Thielen is going to fight him for anything, because the last 8 weeks, math. I can't math. 7 weeks of the season, he had 3, 6, 7, 7, 8, 6, 3 targets, only had over 50 yards 2 of those 7 weeks. So he definitely went down. That's why they traded for Deontay, because their 2nd round rookie wasn't there. They think that their 2nd round rookie from last year, Mingo, isn't even worth being a starter, because then they went and drafted Xavier Legette in the 1st round. Like, they're clawing for somebody that can do what Thielen did and more. I think Deontay. It sounds so weird. I feel icky saying Deontay Johnson on the Cardinals over, on the Panthers over Ayuk, but I think it's the right call.
Funny, Deontay is actually my most rostered player overall this year. So I've invested pretty heavily. He's in 33% of my leagues. So
we were getting him in like the 7th to 8th round in early drafts.
Definitely a lot cheaper than Ayuk, right? So that's part of that is just cost of acquisition, how cheap Deontay was. I guess the one concern you mentioned Sauce Gardner, Jamie. Marshawn Lattimore's there though for the Saints. Like, and I think at this point we would take Sauce, but Lattimore's still a really good corner, so I don't know that it's necessarily that great a matchup. Like I said, maybe I'm just have Ayuk ranked too high at wide receiver 22, but he's the higher ranked for me, so that would be my answer. But you've both made excellent points as to why it could be or maybe should be Deontay. The one thing I'll say about Thielen, though, he's done this before, where he's monster start of the year and then just tail off. And that's not to do with age, because when he was 26, 27 with Minnesota, he was doing that. Oh, I'm wide receiver 1 through 9 weeks. And then I'm wide receiver 30 through weeks 10 through the end of the fantasy playoffs. So
I had him when he had that streak of 100-yard games and a touchdown, and he was setting that. And I knew his fall down was coming, so I traded him super high, and I got great return for him.
Great. I didn't have that discipline, and I went to disappointing fantasy playoff matchups with Thielen not doing anything. It's great.
Well, I'm a Packers fan, and I gave it to a Viking.
True, yeah. Any excuse you can to trade away a Viking, I respect that. So just to say that, Thielen probably impacts Deontay earlier than he will later. As the season goes on, Deontay's probably going to get better. So that's why I'd still probably lean Ayuk. But I get this, barely practicing. It's a Monday night. I do think the fact that McCaffrey's questionable and it seems like everyone else is healthy. McCaffrey's the one that's got the actual injury concern right now. Does that mean they maybe lean on the passing game more? Does that help Ayuk? So I guess that's maybe where I'm leaning my thinking. Jamie, you've got a couple more here. You mentioned Jaylen Warren or Jerry Jeudy. You're really not going to take the homer pick?
Ooh.
I think I lean Jeudy just because Warren's just coming off the injury. We don't know how healthy he is. The Browns, their implied total is higher than the Steelers again. Does Justin Fields the type of quarterback that we don't want Warren to play with because he takes too many of those potential dump off opportunities and runs with them? So like I have 0 Warren. I felt like I didn't really want to draft either of the running backs for the Steelers. I kind of just wanted to avoid it entirely.
Yep. Same here.
So I don't know, but I feel like I would not be comfortable playing Warren this week. I want to see what the split is before I do. So I lean Judy with the thought that he's number 2, number 3 on that team in targets.
Yeah. I think you go Judy. I think you have to. I think Warren, you just don't know what's going to happen. And I think it's going to be a shootout there. It has to be with Dallas, I think. Between Dallas and Browns, I think it's going to be a shootout. So that's where I'm going.
All right. So the other one you asked, Javonte Williams or Monty? Here's the thing. Because Gibbs was dealing with the hamstring injury, I actually have David Montgomery as RB8. So, Jamie, this is so easily David Montgomery. It's not even close.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
You've got the team with the highest implied total and the team with the second lowest implied total. 27 to 18 points scored. Like, that's too much of a disparity. I think it has to. You know what? You're so disrespectful for Javonte. He didn't even spell his name properly. So that right there should tell you. If you're not even willing to spell his name properly, you got to go with the other guy.
Easy Monty for me.
Yeah,
I think we have. I think we have one more.
Yeah, Mike, another co-host of the Fantasy Cheat Sheet. Thanks for dropping in, Mike. Mike dropping in. I didn't even think of that. That's great. Good job. Brian Robinson or Roma Dunze? This is difficult. And let us know, Mike, if it's half PPR or full PPR.
I'm guessing it's full.
Because my lean is Roma Dunze with just how much the Bears are expected to score. So if it does go to half PPR, though, that might change it to where, okay, that would make me lean towards the running back. But on just face value, my first thought was Roma Dunze.
Yeah, Mike knows how much I love B-Rob.
Same here, dude. We're linked on that for sure.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to sit B-Rob in this situation just because I do think DJ Moore is going to have a tough time. I can see Rome benefiting from
full
that.
PPR favors the wide receiver, I think.
Yeah, especially in this situation with having Eckler in the backfield, he's going to be the receiving back, just like Antonio Gibson led more towards that. I think you go Rome here. Yeah. Great question.
So across the board, Roma Dunze. Now, there's a guy that usually every week reaches out to me on Twitter. Got a shout out to Rich G6567. I assume those are player numbers because he's a big Bruins fan. So there must be years with the Bruins, even though I don't think they won a cup in that stretch, or players with the Bruins, even though I can't. Like, if it was 77, it's okay. Yeah, clearly he's talking about Ray Borg. But yeah, regardless, shout out to, I assume his name is Rich, but maybe not. Bruins 2024-2025, Zadorov and Lindholm era. So you can tell where he's Patriots fan, Bruins fan. He had 2 questions for me. One was, so it's a half PPR league. For the flex spot, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, Jamison Williams, or Antonio Gibson?
Say those players again.
Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, Antonio Gibson, and our favorite Jamison Williams to shit on again.
I go Tony Pollard. I think that he leads that backfield. Yeah, that's my gut reaction right there. I think Tony Pollard.
Yeah, that new offense, they brought Tony Pollard in. It's going to be a true split, but I could see Pollard scoring a lot more points because we saw it in Dallas when he was a part-time player, how efficient he was. But then when he got the full workload, it wasn't that great for him.
It almost benefits the fact that Tajay Spears is there.
Exactly. So, I'm going Pollard on that situation.
So I had tweeted about and let him know, I actually have Pollard and Eckler back to back in my half PPR rankings, but Pollard 1 spot ahead. So I let him know that's where I would lean. And in theory, I'd rather have the running back against the Bears defense. And I'm sure Topher will respect that as a fellow Packers fan. Than I would, to be fair, not a homer pick, the running back playing against the Buccaneers defense, because that again, they've been consistently like a top 5 run defense for over half a decade now, and it's like year over year, and it stays that way. So, I'm concerned with Eckler. And how many receptions is he really going to get from a running quarterback?
Exactly. I think Tony Pollard is not only the safest bet, but he also gives you the highest ceiling, and I think that's ultimately where you want to go with that.
So, would you guys start Tony Pollard over someone like George Pickens this week?
No.
I was thinking no as well.
Yeah. All right. I thought that was the easy one.
So Rich's second question for me was QB. So he's got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Deshaun Watson. Not gonna lie, they're all super closely ranked to me. So I thought that I thought both of these questions were actually pretty difficult. But I thought about them and just trusted my rankings. And I told him, yeah, Pollard was the guy I had ranked the highest. Caleb Williams is the guy I have ranked the highest, but he's literally 1 spot ahead of Daniels and like 5 spots ahead of Watson in QB rankings. So I could be convinced of any of them, but
I think you go either rookie. I don't trust Watson as far as I can throw him, to be honest. And
it's certainly not as far as he can throw himself with the shoulder, right?
Exactly. So I lean Jaden Daniels just because of the rushing upside. It's a fantasy football cheat. But Caleb Williams could break out week 1, just dominate. So I don't know who to say. I would just kind of flip a coin maybe. And normally when you flip a coin, sometimes you feel like, oh, okay, like this is who I want it. I want it to be head because that's
you
Caleb.
You get the realization when you're forced to something else forces your decision, right?
Exactly.
That is a silly piece of advice to just flip a coin on it because you're right.
I learned that from Hannah Montana when I was a kid, so that's pretty cool. Bringing some Disney Channel.
I feel like I watched Hannah Montana too as a kid, so I might have learned it there, but I might have also learned it on different podcasts. I think the reason I have Williams just a spot ahead of Daniels is, yes, the rushing is great, but again, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the one team that's shut down run games. Like, I don't know that, like, in my one league with Jaden Daniels, now that we have news, I think if it was going to be Russell Wilson, I was going to play Daniels over him. Now that we have news that Wilson's out, he can't possibly get benched, I think I'm going to start Fields over Daniels for this.
Oh, easily. That's what I would do too.
All right, well, I'm going to go change that now. Just that kind of caught me off guard, the news that Russell Wilson is out. That's my most important league. So I think, I had 2 decisions there because I also was deciding between Ferguson and Fant, but Jamie kind of set my mind at ease in terms of matchup wise, how you beat the Browns. Mike actually has, I was going to say Mike Singletary, but no, we're not having coaches for 80s IDP players, but Devin Singletary or Austin Eckler.
All right, you got to go Singletary. Yeah.
Back to the Bucs defense. Like, give me the guy against the Vikings suck, right, Topher? Like the worst defense who's getting all the work as opposed to the guy who's splitting against the really tough defense.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Singletary is going to be great to go early in the season. And then if he loses work, then we can adjust and say, okay, he isn't going to get the full workload. But I think, where do I even have Singletary? Yeah. Oh, Well, this is wrong because I have Singletary behind Eckler in my rankings. Let me flip that real quick.
I think this is easy one.
So before we head out, did you guys have any bets that you made this week that you feel comfortable with?
I'm gonna double check mine right after we get off the show. I'm going through and double checking mine. So,
well, speaking of checking, I'm just going through the inactives right now to see if there's any player that we need to talk about that we haven't. Cam Akers is inactive, so expect Mixon and Dameon Pierce to get all the work. I know there was concern about what Dameon Pierce's role is going to be, but they've released Jawar Jordan. Akers is a healthy scratch right off the bat. All this tells me is Dameon Pierce's role is pretty secure as the second running back. So if he's available on waivers, he's a great handcuff running back to have because it's a super good offense where if Mix never went down, we know Pierce can handle a lot of workload, a lot of carries, and can be really efficient rushing wise. He might not be a good pass catching back, but considering their weapons, they're probably not throwing to the running back very often this year.
Yeah.
Oh, Zach got one in one night before we left. Ramondre Stevenson or Roma Dunze? Chase the points and say, again, the Bears are expected to score more. The Patriots are so low, but then if you're thinking that, you'll never play Ramondre because they're probably going to be projected so low all season.
And I think Ramondre has that backfield. And Gibson's there, but Ramondre
he is active, by the way.
He was just extended. I think Ramondre.
Yeah, I'm going Ramondre. I mean, someone has to move the chains, right? And it's either going to be him or Hunter Henry. Those are only 2 options.
I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, because your boy Javon Baker is actually out, so they chose Jalen Polk over him to be the guy that's active. So Jamie's thinking if their best receiver's not even in the game, so they're clearly never going to pass.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Stevenson getting like maybe 20 yards even in the air. So that's why like
it's
four.
funny. The NFL was so mean to you today, Jamie. Roman Wilson out, Javon Baker out, Ramondre Stevenson out. All of the Jamie my guys.
Roshan Johnson out.
Sorry, dude. But you know what? Those are probably the most relevant players that are inactive. Other than like again, we talked about T. Higgins being out.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously the most relevant, but like, I mean, Josh Downs is out. That's the other guy, but I think that was reported a few days ago. So we're not breaking news to say Josh Downs is out. I think everyone's been aware of that. I mean, he's been dealing with a high ankle sprain for the past month, so I think we expected he wasn't going to start the season when he got that high ankle sprain so close to the season.
Yeah,
but yeah, not seeing anyone else that really matters for fantasy. Like Tommy Tremble's out, so it's funny how Ian Thomas is on IR. Like other than Jatavian Sanders, there's basically like we don't need tight ends. You got all these receivers.
True. Oof.
So yeah, I don't know. I know one of the things I've been struggling with is DeAndre Swift versus Jerome Ford. I think
Ford.
You see, I'm leaning Swift because it's the only league where I have Swift, where I've got Ford started in other spots. So it's the whole psychological thing where if Swift goes off, I at least get it. But I know someone else. I think I put it on Twitter, and then someone else said they had that exact same dilemma. So it seems like that is pretty popular today. Like you drafted Swift, but suddenly you took Ford super late, and now you've got the opportunities to play him. To your point, Jamie,
Swift does actually do really good in the early season.
And no Roshan
being out, so I mean, you kind of have to go Swift in that situation.
I mean, we've seen I think Roshan was Swift's biggest hurdle to play in third downs because we've seen Khalil Herbert's just atrocious in pass pro, and he's okay with he's good with the ball in his hands and efficient, but that's Swift's best game. So I see Swift monopolizing all the third down and all the passing down work now that Johnson's out. Herbert might get some early down carries, but I think the fact that Chubb and Roshan are both out, it helps these running backs. But we expected this from Chubb early, to Ford to be usable early in the season. Same thing as Chuba Hubbard, right? You want them because when the starters are injured, that's when you get good running back carries. When the starters come back, it's a mess. Do you really want to start any of them? Which is why I've avoided Jonathan Brooks and Chubb this year. I think I've got one dynasty share of Chubb, but I've been investing more in Ford and Hubbard because those are the guys I want. But at the same time, we didn't expect Roshan to be out. This kind of came out of nowhere, right? Was he questionable this week, Jamie?
No, I haven't heard anything.
So it doesn't seem like it's injury. It just seems like healthy scratch. We'd rather have someone else active than him. Not, and they might only have two running backs active, but another player who plays special teams is active instead, or his role isn't important enough, which tells me Swift's gonna get the majority of the work. So that's why I've leaned that way. But again, there's also the fact that I know in this particular league, if I bench Ford, it's okay because I've got him starting in a couple other spots. I can live with a great game from him, and I messed up in this one league. But if Swift goes off and I don't have him, then it's damn, should have known. He was a third round pick for me in this dynasty league too a couple years ago, super high investment. Okay. What could have been with Swift?
Yeah, Zach, thanks for coming on and asking a lot of questions.
I wasn't entirely sure how this was going to work. Even Topher was asking, what are we doing this morning, guys? So first off, well done for so little prep. But I also wasn't necessarily sure how much traction we get, how many questions. We barely had time to talk about the inactives, and we still went 15 minutes over. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Ali, and Dan. Of course, Beely says. Always thank you, Dan, for being so great. And of course, Jeff Lambert, the founder of Going for Two, giving us this platform here at Going for Two Live to talk about, in this case, on Sunday mornings, start sit decisions. So glad we could help people out. Topher, awesome debut. I think you were fantastic. Looking forward to co-hosting with you on the season.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much.
That's great. You can follow Topher at Topher K44.
Yep.
Jamie's at Jamie Perog. Anything you'd like to share with the audience before leaving, Jamie?
Just thanks for showing up. Hope you have a good week. If you want to do a last minute bet, do a parlay with Mike Evans anytime touchdown, and do it with Monty anytime touchdown.
Yeah. No, I like that. Especially no Aaron Donald. That run defense might not work that well. So
yeah,
Yeah, I like that with Monty. That's great. I don't have any betting advice. Stick with Jamie for that. That being said, I do co-host the Monday Night Football. We do make prop bets and pick against the spread and things like that. I'm the higher lower guy, so that's what you want me for. So yeah, come join us tomorrow night, Monday night at 7, an hour before the game kicks off. But yeah, we got 15 minutes before these 1 o'clock kickoff. So thank you, Topher. Thank you, Jamie. I try to say Topher Kurt all in once. Thank you, Topher. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, all the listeners, viewers, and of course, thank you, whoever I'm speaking to watching. That didn't work so well, but we'll work it better next week. So come join us again on the Going for Two live stream every Sunday morning.